Hi, my name is Mohsena Hassan. So today I want to talk about social acceptance, especially after there has been some changes in your life. If you want to consider in terms of money, social acceptance is real. For example, you can have a defamation lawsuit. You have heard of the price of goodwill in your accounting ledger. Depending on your social acceptance, you might have a better chance of winning an election versus not winning an election. The huge amount of money you have to pay a star to be in your commercial. So there is a value for social acceptance, and it is also true in your family life as a person. So as a person, you might be not having social acceptance might mean that you might go into depression, you might be going into financial hardship, isolation, you can become suicidal, you might just lose all your faith and belief in the structure of family, and this might have a multi-generational effect. Psychologists say having relationship with 5 people makes a person have a sense of well-being, and stripping off even those 5 people out of their life, you just never know the escalation of isolation and how it affects in your life. Even Chanakya and the famous Khana had observed that there is serious implication of the breadwinner or someone important dying in your family, and you have basically, it has affected your financial or your social status in such a way that it becomes a kind of a wobbly situation for you. Now, a lot of people, a lot of well-meaning family and friends feel really awkward, and they don't know how to deal with this person now who has fallen from the financial status or the social status that they were enjoying before. And to avoid that one awkward moment that might last for less than 30 seconds. For example, I'm that poor family member who is asking for your help, and I ask you, can I have some money please? And you basically say, no, I'm unable to. So that doesn't even take you 30 seconds. And to avoid that much discomfort and awkward moment, we assume for the longest time that this will become a horrible thing, and how would I respond, and how would he respond, and what would happen, and this elaborate thing. And it's not an elaborate thing. It can only be 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be death of that relationship. It doesn't have to mean death of not being able to have that family member, and ultimately your children not knowing how to cope and maintain a family and become lonely in life. Learning this horrible lesson that you are kind of on your own and go through a horrible situation when you can't anymore rely on anyone. We are kind of biologically wired to be part of a social scenario, and there is no other way you can really do anything to change this biological requirement. Before, I had this notion that this awkward feeling and this avoidable situation had only happened with me, and after speaking with a lot of people, I have realized that this is not the case. A lot of people go through this, and this is not only me. There are 2 examples that gave me a lot of peace in my mind, that this situation that Chanakya had explained is not in the past, but this is a real situation in the present moment. And the first story is a friend of mine who had an aunt in her deathbed, and he had been wanting to visit her. She was suffering from a terminal disease, and there was no way she would be surviving, but he had this understanding that if he had gone to visit her, the family would expect him to make a substantial financial contribution and at that point in time he was not able to. So he was unable to visit his aunt at deathbed, and she did die. I'm sure that has left her family and him feeling bad about it in an unrepairable way. The second incident, I was reading an article by a very famous journalist whose father was a very well-known, distinguished freedom fighter, and a cantonment in Bangladesh has been named after him. So this son had to really go and look for his father's dead body and found it after many years. It must have been so painful. And when I was reading this article that he had written, in the article it said that the father's friend had never called him or the family just to ask how they were. I mean, the expectation is so small. So maybe in last 40 years time, 50 years time, if that person had made maybe 5 calls, the small child, the son who had lost his father, he would not feel so neglected. There are hurts. The father's friend might not have anything to talk about with the young son, but the son of course has an expectation that he will be acknowledged, and before to be wished once in a while, just to be remembered, just to have a call and say, I'm so proud of you that you have become well accomplished in your life. I had certain thought about on these things. What do you think of that? And it wouldn't have costed him any money, but it would have made his life, made his sense of belonging, sense of respect, sense of dignity and integrity, and those things would have made a huge difference. No doubt about it. And the quality of his life would have changed immensely. So for those of who is living with this fear that, if I continue talking with him or her, my poor relative, my poor friend, or a person who is in a dicey situation, and the person asks for help and I have to say no, to avoid that 30 seconds, I'm willing to let go of the entire relationship and teach my children that you are vulnerable, you're on your own, and there is no grace, there is nothing. That will make only pharmaceuticals very rich. There will be many more psychiatrists and psychologists and psychotherapists and the shrink, and it's not going to solve it. So even having that 30 seconds of awkward conversation is perfectly fine, but sometimes that 30 seconds is not required. Most probably they will not ask for money. Your pets, people's pets like cats and dogs, cow or goat, even they understand your mood. So believe it or not, people do understand your mood. They will know if they are welcome or not. You don't have to say it aloud. So here are 7 things you can do that will not cost you money, and you can keep a good relationship, and you can help that person with his or her mental health. If you're a religious person, you can get some sawab. So here are 7 things you can do that doesn't cost you money and is a huge investment for your family. So number 1, please invite them for the wedding, for the birthday invitation, for the anniversary invitation, the usual invitations that you have been giving all your life. There is no need to avoid them. If you feel that it would be a pressure for them to buy a gift, please call them up and say, I would really appreciate if you just could come, and I would really appreciate if you don't bring any gift, because I'll feel really guilty that at this time in your life I am putting that pressure on you. Please don't do that. I really want you to come. If you're inviting them, then when they arrive, don't have that awkward thing that you don't know how to talk with them. Just talk with them normal. As you are receiving other guests, just receive them same. They are desperate to be received normally. Second, the person who has passed away, if you remember their birthday, you can message on their social media. Just call them up any time of the year or say, oh my God, that many years have passed, or this many months have passed, and just talk about that person, because sometimes you just want to talk about that person. There might not be a hero to other people, but that person is your hero and you just want to talk about them. It just feels so good to talk about people who is no longer there, and it's such a relief to be able to say the same old stories again. Third thing, wish them. Maybe your relative is a mother who has lost her child. Wish them on Mother's Day, because now it's no longer real for them. They still want to be reminded that this is Mother's Day and she has been a mother. The child is lost or not, still want to be reminded that this is Mother's Day and it's real for them in their mind. Same with Father's Day and other days that you want to wish them. Just to send a message to them, or during Eid, Christmas, Durga Puja, whatever that you're celebrating, just send them a wish, and that message really makes a lot of difference. So I want to give you an example. I have an uncle who sends a message every Eid to all his family and friends, and that includes me. And he has never failed giving that message, and it's a message to everyone. I think the list doesn't change much, but I really feel good that I'm in that list. I just don't feel that I have been dropped off from my family. I have been completely forgotten. Even though maybe it's the same list, maybe he copy pastes it, but I still like it, and it's the truth. Fourth thing, you have nothing to talk about. There is nothing in common. The person who used to be the point of contact is no longer. What do you talk about? You can talk about general topic like election, talking about sports like cricket, football, just something general that everybody's experiencing. A general topic, just something. Oh, how are you during this? Whom are you supporting for this match? Something like that. Even that message really reminds that person that you have not been forgotten. The fifth cheap item that you can do is that you can go and enjoy places which are free pass. For example, the book fair, the LitFest in Dhaka, going to Chayanaut, going to a drama, a live performance. These are very cheap tickets. This is available in Bangla Academy. There are other places where it's happening. You can go and walk into a Pitha shop. There's a fair for plants. Just go and visit somewhere, just stroll with a family member or a friend. And sometimes that just being able to walk and not buy anything or just experiencing something, it really makes a difference. And the people who are arranging this kind of events, they also want that audience. So help them out. Sixth thing, ask for opinion, for no-brainer opinion. For example, what do you think I should cook for my daughter's birthday that we are doing at home? How do you make that special item that you make? How do you make it? How do you prepare that? What are the ingredients that you give? Can you give me a suggestion for a doctor? Can you give me a suggestion for a good teacher? The topics that you think that the other person might be aware of or is good at, you can ask that person, and that person will feel important that you are considering his or her opinion. Seventh thing is that take that person into confidence and ask if it is okay if you can give some of your things that you are no longer using. For example, you can ask if it is okay to give your expensive party sarees that you've worn only few times and you want to give it away. It is okay to ask the person if he or she would like to have your used devices. Would the person like any of your decoration pieces that you're kind of letting go? Any imitation jewelries that you are considering letting go? Even furnitures. I mean, before, furniture was something people would have the same furniture for generations. That is not the case anymore. So you might be changing or you might be moving, and you can ask in confidence, would you be interested to have this furniture? If you notice something that I have this, would you be interested to have that? If you have a jacket, you have a blazer, you know somebody will be going for an interview sooner or later in that year, it might fit that person, ask. And this was a very natural thing before. We have completely forgotten about it. I had hand-me-down from my sister. I love those things. I think in Bangladesh, almost everyone from my age or older would recall that there has been hand-me-down clothes, nice things from your older brothers and sisters. I love them. I love having my mother's sari, because you're growing up so fast. You would have things that your brothers or sister, your older brothers and sisters, that they would have something, you will have some hand-me-down. There were so many things. There were books, storybooks, clothing, jewelry, purse, small trinkets, coloring pencil. There were so many things that were hands-me-down. There was no shame in it at that time. And even people who were neighbors, they would hand them down other things. And now for whatever reason, we have become like really strict about not using them and just throwing everything in the garbage and buying everything new. I mean, I don't know. I think there was a lot of love. People could remember one furniture being used from one person to another, or a child's outfit being worn by 3 cousins. And it's just not there anymore. I think this would be something really nice that you can revive in your family, and something that would bond each other, and you have used the same outfit. It would be so much fun to talk about. It brings you together. These memories, this conversation, these interaction brings you together, and the time investment is so less. I'm sure you can do that. You just have to have the courage, and you have to make a new tradition for your new family. Let me know which advice you have found really useful, and if you have a suggestion that you have implemented in your family to kind of transition through this kind of situation. I'd really love to hear that. Let me know which advice you found most useful and forward it to someone who needs to know. Please subscribe to Advice for Survival if you like this content. Thank you.